Hello, everybody. It's Professor Andrew Gomes for our 68th episode of Artificial Intelligence and Cybersurgery. We are the official podcast of the journal Artificial Intelligence Surgery, which finally got its first impact factor of, believe it or not, 3.6. I'm still stunned, pleasantly surprised. And I'm here with my co-host, Professor Vincent Grasso, who will introduce someone I've known for a while, and I'm very excited to bring to the podcast and to have people learn more about. So, Vincent, take it away.
Sure. No, thank you. This is exciting. And when we started this, we never thought maybe we'd get to episode 68 so fast. It's a great pleasure to have Professor Amir Szold on our show today. He's a man of many talents. He's a pioneering minimally invasive surgeon with a distinguished career and training in his past. He's currently professor in Israel and Tel Aviv, professor of surgery. He's involved in a lot of innovation, and we're excited to have you on the 68th podcast. And please introduce yourself a little better to our audience, and we'll get engaged. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the kind introduction. And I'm very happy to be on your podcast and as a part of artificial intelligence surgery endeavor. I am a surgeon. I did my medical school in Jerusalem and did my training in Jerusalem. And part of my residency I did in Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, which was just by serendipity the year when they started doing laparoscopic surgery in New York in 1990.
Was Gagne wasn't there yet?
But before Gagne, it was Barry Solke was my teacher.
Of course. Wow, interesting.
Barry Solke was my mentor. And when I came back to Israel, I was barely out of my residency and one of the only surgeons in the country who could have done anything laparoscopic. And
Wow.
I was lucky enough to have a very open-minded chief of surgery who allowed me to do anything I wanted. And I actually taught myself everything else except for laparoscopic cholecystectomy. I've done Nissen fundoplications. I done my first colon in 1993.
Wow.
And I did many of the first laparoscopic operations in Israel. I joined the European Association of Endoscopic Surgery and SAGES, the American Association, at a very early stage and was active on their committees. In the European Association, I was a board member for some terms, and I was a chief of technology committee of the organization. And I'm still a very active surgeon. I don't know if I'm happy to say that, but I'm still a very active surgeon. I do like 600 cases a year still.
Wow. I apologize.
And I was, for many years, because of my technical skill, I was sort of like an all-encompassing general surgeon. I did the first donor nephrectomies in Israel. And I've done about 80 of them. I did many first operations, and slowly, as my career advanced and everybody over-specialized, I went more and more towards general abdominal surgery. And in the past several years, I'm focusing more on abdominal wall surgery. So I do a lot of complex hernias and that kind of, still do a lot of general surgery. And because Israel is a very strong innovation hub, and apparently I have some kind of a technical mind, since 1997, I was recruited to many startup companies in Israel and then in Europe and the United States as an advisor, as a board member, and after a few years of experiencing this field, I started my own projects, and I co-founded some companies. Some of them were sold to multinational companies, and some of them failed miserably, as startups do.
Yes.
Some of them failed colossally with spending tons of money of investors and shut down. I have several patents on my name. I think this will be enough. I have a very strong belief of what is going to happen to surgery, and I did a lot of my innovation following these lines because I think that's how things should be. I'm over optimistic, so I always thought it's going to happen quickly, and it's not happening as fast as I want, but it will happen eventually. That's what I think. So, and I'm
You,
fascinated now by artificial intelligence and the combination of that amazing power into surgery.
you know, one thing I've noticed from surgeons from your generation, though, you don't look much older than I do, but nonetheless, uh, I've noticed that a lot of things that you guys wanted to do, the technology just wasn't there. Like you guys knew what was needed, you knew what you wanted, but just the technology wasn't there. I know, Vincent, you were a victim of this also, but you know, AI has really, you know, come into the fore over the last, I have to probably say 15 years now. I guess I used to say 10 years, but it's about the last 15 years that it's really flourished and it's really able to give us some real life aids. I know, you know, do you know Adrian Park,
Yeah,
Amir?
of course.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he was thinking about computer vision and navigation, you
In the
know,
90s.
augmented reality, like in the 90s, you know, and
Yeah,
it's wild. Yeah.
I was actually involved in augmented reality projects in 1999.
It's
And
wild, Vincent. I don't know if you've seen some of the presentations from back then. You know, they would animate it because they couldn't do it otherwise. But it's beautiful, you know, and the ideas were so forward thinking. It's mind boggling to me. What did you
yeah,
do with augmented reality back in the 90s?
well, two things. One was a company that was called Vision Sense that eventually was sold to Stryker. All the andocyanin green systems of Stryker is this company, but we started as a 3D company with a patented chip, and because it was all digital, we managed to overlay the video on previous planning of the operation and show where vessels were and stuff like that. It never materialized into a product, but the technology was thoroughly sketched. And
Yeah,
the second thing that I was involved with was Symbionics, which is today one of the biggest companies for simulators. And I helped them introduce virtual reality simulation into their project combined with so it was all actually a virtual reality rendering of procedures that I have done, of
right.
video procedures that I've done.
Oh wow, wow.
And that was also late 90s, early 2000s, like 25 years ago.
Yeah, it must be mind boggling to look at that time span from like what you wanted to what you know what we finally have. Just like you say, you thought it would have been much sooner, but
No, it's not mind-boggling to me, it's disappointing.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Your imagination is always much bigger than what the world is capable of doing. So
yeah. That's for sure. And you know, we know each other more recently because I know of your interest in handheld robotics, or
yes,
or you know what? This is a good starting point. Would you consider a handheld robot a collaborative robot? Like, how do you term?
absolutely,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
Do
That's
you also consider Da Vinci a collaborative robot?
Da Vinci is a collaborative robot, but I think it's the fact that it's one of the forms of collaborative robots that I never thought will pick up, as opposed to the other forms that I was sure will be much better.
Yeah.
So
So
I think,
explain that to me. Which forms did you think would be better?
well, the company that I started doing handheld robots that didn't do it well enough and therefore eventually failed because of poor management, but not because the idea was bad, was called Human Extensions. And the idea was that the surgical tools should be robotic extensions of your body, but very slim and elegant and intuitive to use, and not a very large machine, because your interaction with the patient through a technology is something that makes a lot of sense because the technology can make you a much better surgeon. But I think that translating that into this 3-ton monster doesn't make any sense, not economically,
Yeah.
not ergonomically, not by any way. So, I mean, they manage miraculously to overtake everything, probably because they started very early and were very, very well funded. But
Yes.
the notion that there are American surgeons who can't do a hernia repair without a robot is terrifying to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's mind-boggling. Also, it must be very
Yes.
hard to relate to that. So so Vincent, what are your thoughts on handheld robotics, telemanipulators, costs? The reason I'm so curious about this, obviously very important topic, is I was talking recently with a surgeon from Lebanon, and many hospitals now, even in Lebanon, I wouldn't say many, but hospitals have the Da Vinci. But now to do a surgery, the patients have to pay like $10,000 just for the disposables and the right to use the robot. So what do you think happens in Lebanon, Vincent? Nobody uses the robot. It's too damn expensive. It's like all this capital expense, and now no one can afford to use the robot. It's complete insanity. But nonetheless, Vincent, we find ourselves in the situation where the robot is everywhere. Everyone's talking about the robot. There's less and less money, but like we're still everyone's walking like lemons off the cliff. How do you see the future, Vincent? I know that's a tough question, but how can you
No,
explain to me what Amir's what he expected and the reality today? It's
well, I share a lot of what Amir's frustration, because when I was working with Rick Satava at Yale in the late 90s, that was the epicenter for visionary thinking in healthcare, right? So all the cybersurgery related innovational mindsets and thinking, we were exposed to. A lot of that stuff didn't materialize, not because they weren't good ideas, as Amir mentioned, but because the business drivers, the ability to make money, always, unfortunately, sometimes trumps the bringing the right things to the market, right? So long as there's people making money with the current robotic platforms, that's a major driver to percolate it. But I think what's going to happen is, as we've mentioned in some of our other articles, 5 billion people don't have access to reliable surgical care, and you're not going to be seeing these $10 million 2-ton objects in hospitals around the world, especially in the developing world that can't afford it and no reason to get it. So I think that's going to drive a lot of the innovations you're talking about in these hybrid robotic devices, interactions, and designs, to probably go back to a lot of what Amir was thinking about way back when, but wasn't able to bring to market. So I think the market's going to drive innovation because 5 billion people need surgical care, and you can't deliver Da Vinci robots everywhere. So I think that'll be the driver, just demand.
I want to take you even a step further. I think that a lot of what we do in surgery, I mean, the thing is that I don't think that we should develop machines that will do whatever we do today better. I think we should disrupt what we're doing as well. So I believe a combination of early detection, endoscopy, advanced endoscopy, medications,
Sure.
instruments, ablation will make a lot of what we do completely obsolete. So, I mean, resecting cancer is the only thing we can do today. But if you think of it philosophically, it doesn't make any sense. Cancer is a cellular disease. You have to treat the cell, not the organ. I mean, the organ is not to be blamed that it
yeah,
has cancer.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if you're able to detect cancer early and you remove it and have an instrument that will tell you that you removed all of it or most of it, and you ablate everything around it, and then give some kind of a biological treatment to kill the remaining cells, that should take care of most cancers, unless they're very big. So most of our diseases, except for the ones that are purely mechanical, like hernia, valves, joints, are not cellular diseases, and they should be treated on the cellular level. So I believe that the combination of biological medications, of gene therapy, of minimally invasive procedure that are endoscopy based or catheter based or completely external will make most of what we do today So now I'm not being optimistic, but in 50 years, unless we will go back to the dark ages, those things will be gone.
Yeah. So I mean, one of my biggest problems with all of these expenditures for these complete robotic surgical systems is that we don't have enough money really to do the AI research. All the things you're talking about, perfecting the tools we do have, using different ways to, treat the disease instead of buying these fancy large devices. So how do you see us combating this? Because all the money is currently being burned on the robot, but we need money for AI research. How in Israel are you guys dealing with this? How are you able to shift money over to more AI research?
So a lot of it has to do with, so the thing is, if you expect big advancement in everything we do to happen just from economical drivers, they don't happen. Really, internet was not invented by a company, and everything like electricity was made public everywhere in the world by governments, by civil organizations, by countries, by cities, by people that were driven not only by money making, but also for making people's life better. So I think that a lot of it, and when you try, if you manage to funnel government money into the right places, you get somewhere. The American space program was not started by Elon Musk. It was started by the American government that funded it heavily for 50 years. And then these guys came in and started making money on that. But the fundamentals of all these systems were funded by government, as they should be. And I think also healthcare, by the way, should be funded by government, because I think healthcare is like air and like security and like education is a civil right. It's something that has to be part of the government. It doesn't have to be socialist. It doesn't have to be managed by the government, but it has to be part of your being a person in a country. So in Israel, medicine is more or less socialized. It's very open, but it's socialized. They don't tell you you don't have to. It's very much like France that you know very well. It's a socialized medicine, but you get to choose. You get to go wherever you want to,
Yeah,
etc. And a lot of the research is funded by government. So I hope that one company in Israel now, AI Doc, is now raised $130 million from the market. It started from government money, but they built an amazing AI platform for healthcare that you can. They started by one project, but now they built a fundamental system that you can dump any kind of data into and learn amazing things from it and create different programs from this project. They started from automatically identifying stroke in patients who come into the emergency room. Sheba Hospital has reduced its mortality from stroke by 30% in 2 years. 30%.
How so? Give us an
So you go
example.
into the emergency room, you get a CT scan in 10 minutes, and in 5 minutes, you're either catheterized or sent home.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, is it using natural language processing? Is it using computer vision and it reads the stroke, or what is the? So it's reading the image. It's reading the image.
Reading the image, yeah.
Wow.
But it's not only reading the image. It alerts everybody involved. It's not only doesn't give you a report. It gives a beep to anybody who needs to be involved in the care of the patient if something needs to be done quickly. So the
Wow,
response,
beautiful.
the response is immediate.
Yeah,
It
that's
calls
amazing.
the
Yeah, because Vincent, as you know, a lot of these AIs used often for natural language processing. It's finding the word in the report, but obviously in a stroke, by the time the scan gets done, read, transcribed, and someone actually reads it, is hours. So it's beautiful that they just went right to the image. So someone has, is it everyone who has a CT scan for their brain, automatically this program is initiated, or is it for people with certain symptoms? Is it like a stroke protocol, or everyone?
If you come into the hospital with a suspected stroke, you immediately go into this stream. You immediately go into this algorithm.
That's fantastic. And they don't have it for other pathologies right now for
Now
that
they're
one.
beginning to have it, so now
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
built a platform that's not only focused on that, but has the capabilities of learning a whole health system. So all the databases of the entire health system were open. So they're beginning to implement the same program for other things. I'm not sure exactly what's their next steps, but there are 2,000 hospitals in the US that use it already.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah. That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just a shame now, Vincent, it brings up to your point. So we have this level of artificial intelligence using computer vision, reading scans autonomously, sending beeps, beautiful system. And then you have someone who, doesn't even have access to prenatal vitamins, who can't get a hernia done, who can't get an appendicitis. It's a bitter pill. It is a bitter, bitter pill that
But you see, the thing is that, like cell phones, for instance, cell phones in many countries in the world have completely bypassed a lot of technologies that in the West. So in China, there are areas that don't have any cable communications. They never bothered to do that. They just built cell towers and satellite communications. And in Africa, there are people who have never had the bank account, but since they have a cell phone, they now have a bank account through their cell phone. So these technologies can be ubiquitous and can bring these things to places where technology, like small, independent, low energy instruments. I tried in Africa. I did. I was involved in a project in Uganda where we tried to help midwives. Somewhere in small villages, advise them using a cell phone when there is a hard labor. The problem is that their accounts are their phones they cannot move video.
hmm,
They're and but and nobody is willing to pay for the airtime of this.
yeah, yeah.
So that's where it failed. But I'm sure in a few years things like that and when we can use small instrument that can do this, I always have ideas of how to do it because I was always concerned about countries that cannot afford this stuff.
When I used to I used to work part-time in the Republic of Georgia at the American Hospital Tbilisi, and throughout the city, the capital, you would see these kiosks
Yeah.
where you could go and you could buy Bitcoin. And
Yeah.
and and it's funny, Amir. I always thought, like, I was crazy. Who would ever do this? Like, why would you buy Bitcoin? But Amir, it finally makes sense to me because say
You don't need a bank account.
you have an unstable government, you're not sure what your currency is going to
Yeah.
do. Boom, you get some money, you just put it into Bitcoin. At least you have a semblance. Maybe Bitcoin for your reality is more stable than your other options, and that's uh, that's very interesting. That's you're still an optimist, Amir, but you're keeping me an optimist too.
So I
So
think that AI, for instance, would be an amazing tool to learn how to your by motion sensors, and you can learn what the surgeon is doing with his hand during surgery and correct the motion or stop the surgeon from making errors or turning a very complex motion into a very simple hand gesture. And for that, computing power is now ready for that, but you need to pick it up. I think endoscopy, for instance, the platform of endoscopy is something that was invented 70 years ago, 60 years ago, something like that.
the
1950s,
flexible, no,
1960. The
no, but
flexible endoscope.
the rigid scope was even,
No, it was 200 years ago, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
but flexible endoscope and nothing changed. They still use these funky wheels and
yeah,
go like this. It makes no sense. You can't do anything complex. You can do if you're a very talented Japanese, but most human beings cannot do complex procedures using endoscopy because the platform should be disrupted. And
yeah,
all the tools to make that happen are there for the last 20 years.
yeah.
But nobody managed to pick them up and assemble them into a new instrument.
So that brings us back to hand extensions. Can you give us a little bit of an update of where things are with
Yeah,
are they?
the company was recently purchased by a big Chinese company, and I don't know what they're going to do with it.
Oh, so you guys don't have any involvement with it anymore? I mean, does what
No,
happens? But does the production? What happens to all your engineers and they just
no,
take the
they're all here.
technology?
They're all
Ah,
here. They bought the company, but they didn't buy me.
okay, okay. I understand. I understand. Interesting. And is funding principally for say Handex? We use Handex as an example. Did the initial funding also come from the government in that situation?
Yes, yes. So there is a very, very good program in Israel where uh, for seed money, there is a government fund that you can apply to. And if your idea makes sense, you get about somewhere between 500,000 to $750,000 to start your
Wow,
project, and you don't have to return it. And they don't get equity. The
that's
only thing they
fantastic.
have, the only thing the government gets is that there is a company in Israel that pays taxes and employs people. And the
Yeah.
only thing you have to pay is that if the company sells to a multinational or leaves the country, you pay a fine equals
Uh,
to what you sort of like borrowed from from the government. But
so
if
for
you
instance,
yeah,
for hand extension, it remains in Israel, so that didn't happen. The fine,
yes, it's the yeah.
it stayed. Okay. So Vincent, is it like that in the United States? I don't think so.
No.
That sounds like a wonderful system. Do you know of any other countries that have replicated that system? It sounds phenomenal for.
There are countries that begin to replicate it in Europe. So countries learn from what we did here. And
And how long?
this has been around for 25 years. 30
Wow.
years actually today. And a lot of the innovation that came from Israel started like that because when you start this company, they only give you this type of money. Sometimes they also the government started something that is called technology incubators, where the government co-invests with private investors that do the same, but for further advancements of companies. So they invest to a company up to $1.5 million, $2 million. They give them patent lawyers, part-time managers, bankers, connections to other things. And these incubators started as government projects, but many of them completely privatized. VCs bought them because they were making so much money that the VCs wanted a hand in that. So some of these are now owned by either a combination of multinationals and venture capitals, and the government is out. I mean, so Philips has one in Israel, Apple has one in Israel.
Wow.
Many major companies have them, and they focus. Each one of them focus. So some of them are medical devices, but some of them are other technology, cyber technology, energy, edtech, medtech, fintech. They all come from these incubators.
Well, I love that system, and that explains a hell of a lot to me why there's so much innovation coming out from such a small country. That really it's really
So
impressive.
basically, Israel, except for what is happening in the past 2 years, which I can't say that I'm happy to be part of it, uh, is investing the largest uh, percentage of its budget in R&D in the world. It's more than 6.5% of the budget in Israel goes to R&D, of the national
I
budget
you know
goes to R&D.
now I know why they call it the promised land. That is fantastic. I I remember a TV commercial. I was in Israel many years ago, and they had a TV commercial, and like you might remember. I'm not going to say what was on it, but these two guys look at each other. They're on the beach, and they're like, now we know why it's called the Promised Land. But I'll leave it at that. I won't go into any details. Maybe you remember the publicity. It was
Yes, I
hilarious.
really, I do.
So, and I agree. But Vincent, we have not much time left. We have about 5 minutes. I'll let you do some closing comments. And but before I turn it over to Vincent, Amir, do you have any other things you'd like to tell our listeners or let us know?
I think that there's a there is a lecture that I gave a few times, and you can find it online. That it's in whatever I told you here is in more detail. It's called The Death of Surgery, and you can find it online. I think I'm going to make a new version because it's a little outdated. The last version is from about 6 years ago, and I think I put together everything, my concept of where surgery is going to in this lecture very well. I think that we need to train people to do things that are out of our comfort zone. Flexible endoscopy, interventional radiology should be parts of the surgeon's tool because, as we said, surgery is an intervention to physically or chemically or somehow mechanically change human tissues to heal the person. And I think surgery should be this and not only, going into the abdomen and doing stuff. And I think that's why I think that people should train. You can fail, but I started doing a flexible endoscopy when I was 60 because I thought I'm going to be a better surgeon doing it. And I learned to do it. I went on courses. I trained in India for 2 months to make sure that I do a lot of cases in a short period of time. And I do my flexible endoscopies now myself. So I think it's very important to create a toolbox that is as big as possible, because then you can create new things. If you are stuck with whatever you've learned 20 years ago, you can only walk in a straight line.
Yeah, I need to see that lecture. About how long is that lecture?
Like 20 minutes.
I might have to get you to Padova so you can give us that lecture. Are you coming to Padova for the meeting?
I don't think so. I have two meetings on two parts of the world before and after it. I'm not sure, but I'll be glad to come.
Another
I'll be
time.
glad to come to another time.
Yeah. It sounds like I would agree with a lot of that presentation, and now I'm interested to see it in person. So, Vincent, we have just under 4 minutes left. I'll let you close us out.
Sure. No, this was exciting. And thanks so much, Amir, for your time and insights. We'll post a link on our podcast, perhaps with your either updated lecture or the one that you have, whichever one you would like. So, send it off to us. So I guess we can close up and then talk a little after if you want, Andrew. Podcast 68 with Professor Amir Szold, professor of surgery in Israel and healthcare IT innovator and serial entrepreneur. It's been a pleasure having you on our
Thank you very much.
AI and cybersurgery. So we'll talk to you soon.